We're back with Jake Comanduri and Governor Mark Sanford. His new book, Two Roads Diverge, A Second Chance for the Republican Party, the Conservative Movement, the Nation, and Ourselves, is out now. You can see it there on the screen. We'll get to all those ideas. But, Che, having quoted you, I wanted to begin with your point that we can't understand the depths of our science and vaccine misinformation in America today without understanding the Republican Party's crusade for some time now. Explain.
Yeah, it's put it very simply. They don't believe in vaccines the same way they don't believe in climate science, same way they don't believe in evolution, the same way they don't believe in the Big Bang Theory, the same way they don't believe in stem cell research. However, they do believe in the claims of fossil fuel executives. They do believe in all the vitamin and health supplements that Alex Jones regularly hawks on his TV channel or YouTube channel or whatever platform he happens to be on right now. They do certainly believe in those things. And we have to understand that uncertainty is codified in science through the peer review research method that is used by major universities to establish scientific truths. Science is based on probability, it's based on ground. However, the GOP historically, and they've been doing it for over 30 years, going back to Ronald Reagan, has been using that very element of science against science and in favor of GOP interests.
Yeah, you say it that way, and it's very similar to some of the sound we just played from Carlson and Ingram, which, if you want to be charitable, you could say that some of the points are technically in the ballpark, but they really make a drumbeat that's misleading because it implies that the fact that scientists are updating their information through a process is itself an indictment of the science. As you just said, it's not. Governor, we wanted to bring you into this because you've been in the party, but you've also been a truth teller at times. And shout out to your new book. Reading just a quote from it, you say, even before Trump got to Washington, the conservative movement, in your view, you write, represented by the Republican Party, had devolved into a lukewarm mess. Your views on all the above?
Well, we'll come back to lukewarm mess. I mean, respectfully, I disagree with the points just made because I think that the favorite word in politics these days is they, and they. And I don't think that going back to the notion of science and sort of Socratic process is fair. I think that there are absolutely elements of the Republican Party that are Neanderthal as it relates to science. But there are a number of us, I've said for a long time, I was a Republican, in elected office for roughly a 25-year span, that I did believe in science, that I did believe in climate change. It was real. The coastal district that I represent along the coast of South Carolina, I saw it with my own eyes. And I said, there's something unfathomable to me that some in the Republican Party would say, I believe in the miracles of modern science in healing my body, notwithstanding the vaccination debate, but I don't believe in it as it relates to Mother Earth. So I think it's a bit simplistic to say, quote, the Republican Party does not believe in science. I would say there are absolute elements that don't. And shame on those of us who haven't pushed harder and louder against those elements, because I don't think they represent a broad swath of the people that I represented, whether along the coast of South Carolina or in the state as a whole.
Do you think, Governor, to your point, that the thrust of the anti-vaccine arguments, and I mentioned it's not monolithic, in my setup, because I accurately reporting that, the former president himself said get vaccinated, which is different from what some other folks were saying with regard to the science. But do you think that the bulk of the anti-vax sentiment on the right is good faith, by which I mean earnestly held beliefs about people's reservations, or does it concern you that some of it seems to be a kind of a political project?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think that there is a natural wariness against authority on the right. I mean, part of the independence movement, freedom movement is, again, a skittishness about, because they said so, and there's automatically a reaction, well, because you said so, then I'm against it, which is its own sort of thinking, but that is part of the assembly that makes up the Republican Party. And then part of it is based on all the misinformation that's out there. I mean, people that are not necessarily suspicious, but because they have a faith in this sort of tribalism that is all too strong in both parties right now. Well, there's suspicion at the top, then it must be good enough for me. Initially, Trump wasn't exactly a warrior with regard to vaccines and vaccinations. I happen to be a fan. I had the vaccinations, but then I got COVID, and it really sucked. And my boys are young and strong, and they got it, and they were out surfing the next day. I was down and about for about 2 weeks. I never slept as much in my life. But I just think it's a combination of the weird tribalism that is real within the Trump movement and the party right now, combined with the natural suspicion of somebody at the top saying so.
Jay?
Well, look, I would respectfully disagree with the governor on this. I do think that climate change denial, there were exceptions like John McCain, I think we all remember. But for the most part, the entire Republican establishment, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty indisputable, we're very much into climate change denial. And if you believe, let's be very clear, climate change denial is a conspiracy theory. It is a belief that the world scientific community is lying to you, and a group of fossil fuel executives with little scientific training are telling you the truth. It's a short leap from that to believe that the world's medical community is lying to you about vaccines, and Alex Jones is telling you the truth. Climate change denial really, I think, got the ball rolling. But I do also believe that the Republican establishment, with their alliance with the religious right, which really believed, that science was an enemy of faith, not an ally of faith, the way scientists from Isaac Newton to Werner Heisenberg believed, but an enemy of faith, that really did open the door to a lot of this thinking. And we see this around the world. If you look at Brazil and India, where you have populist leaders allied with the religious right, they handled COVID pretty miserably, very similar to the way Trump handled it. And I think that all of this predates Trump, and it's a danger to our country that persists from 30 years ago to today.
I think it's excellent points, and I appreciate the nuance you both bring to it. And part of what Shay says reminds me a little bit of what the governor mentioned, which is there is a traditional or conservative doubt of the powerful. But some of that's being transmuted to say, oh, well, as if a few scientists or people who write articles, scientific articles, are they the powerful? No, I mean, it's the powerful is the oil companies and some of the other big corporations. And I think real populism would counter that, not bend to it. So I do think there's some overlap in what you both are saying, and also some spirited and civil, I should say, disagreement, which we also welcome. So, Shay and Governor, good to have you on together. I hope we can do it again.